Hi guys, so today I'm going to be reading Radio Silence by Alice Oseman, couple chapters, the saddest part, because, yeah. Basically, the first chapter I'm going to start with is Burning. Great chapters. Holy shit, your hair. Aled got off the train on the evening of December 23rd with a suitcase in one hand and a rucksack on his back. His hair was shoulder length. It was also pastel pink at the ends. He was wearing black skinny jeans and a beige corduroy coat with fleece lining and lime green plimsolls, never heard that word, with purple laces, and he had earphones in his ears. I was wearing my giant Topman coat, grid print leggings, and Star Wars bands. He smiled at me. It was a little awkward, but it was a smile. Do you think it looks okay? It looked rad as hell. I stood in front of him for a few seconds, just gazing at him before he took his earphones out. I could hear what he'd been listening to, Innocence by Nero. I'd introduced him to Nero. You're playing your music too loud, I said, before he could say anything else. He blinked in and smiled a little. I know. We walked back to the village and chatted about trivial things, his train journey, Christmas, and the weather. I didn't mind. I knew we couldn't immediately go back to the way things were before. I was just thankful to have him here. We got to my house and Mom welcomed him in with an offer of a cup of tea, but Aled shook his head. I'm gonna go and talk to my mom, he said. Explain to her that I'm staying here for Christmas. I blinked. I assumed she knew already. No, I think this is something I'll have to explain to in person. He dropped his rucksack onto the floor in the hallway and leaned his suitcase against the wall. I'll probably be about only 10 minutes or so, he said. I didn't believe him at all. After he'd gone for half an hour, I was starting to panic. So was Mum. Do you think I should go over there? Asked Mum. We were standing at the den window, watching Aled's house, waiting for any sign of movement. Maybe it would help if I spoke to her. Most adults prefer listening to other adults. Then we heard Aled scream. It wasn't really a scream. It was more of a long wail. I'd never heard anyone sound like that in real life before. I pelted to our front door and opened it just as Aled opened his and stumbled out of it. I ran to meet him and he was staggering for a minute, and I thought he was injured, but I couldn't see anything physically wrong with him except for the fact that his face was contorted because he was sobbing uncontrollably, and I caught him in my arms just as he sank to the ground on the curb, making the most painful noises I've ever heard, like he'd been shot and like he was dying. Then he started to cry out, No, 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 no. The tears falling continuously from his eyes, and I started to ask him frantically what it was, what had happened, what she had done. But he just shook his head over and over, and choked like he couldn't form any words, even if he wanted to. Then I heard it. She killed him. She killed him. I felt like I was going to be sick. Who? What happened? Tell me. My dog Brian. And then he started to sob again, so loudly, like he never cried before in his whole life. I stayed very still. She killed your dog. She said she couldn't look after him because I was gone, and he was getting old, so she went and had him put down. No. He let out another wail and pressed his face into my jumper. I didn't want to believe anyone was capable of doing something like that. But we were sitting under the street lamps and Aled was shaking in my arms, and this was real. This was happening. She was taking everything Aled had and burning it. She was burning him slowly until he died. Rusty northern hands. I'll call the police on her, said Mum for the fourth time. We've been sitting in the den for over half an hour. At least let me go and shout at her. It won't do anything, said Aled. He sounded like he wanted to die. What can we do? I asked. There must be something. No, he stood up from the sofa. I'm going back to uni. What? I stood up too and followed him out the door. Why? You can't just spend Christmas up there alone. I don't want to be near her. We were all silent for a moment. You know, he continued, when me and Carrie's were 10, our mum burns a lot of clothes Carrie's bought from a charity shop. Carrie was really excited about these trousers that she'd bought. and she went out with her friends. They were made out of the galaxy patterned fabric, but our mum said they were trashy and she just took them and burned them in the garden, while Carrie was just screaming and crying. Carrie tried to get them out of the fire and burnt her hands, and Mum didn't even comfort her. His eyes were vacant, like there was nothing there. I had to hold her hands under the cold tap. Jesus Christ, I said. Aled looked down, and his voice quieted. She could have just thrown them away, but she chose to burn them. Me and Mum spent another 15 minutes trying to persuade him to change his mind about leaving, but he wouldn't. He was leaving. Again. It was almost 9 p.m. when Aled and I made it back to the station, though I'd only met him 2 hours earlier. It felt like days ago. We sat on a bench together. The countryside stretched out opposite us, the winter sky black and bleak. Aled lifted up his legs, so his knees were bent and his feet tucked up under the bench. He started fiddling with his hands. It's really cold up north, he said. Then he held out his hands in front of me. The skin of his knuckles were all dry. Look. Rusty northern hands, I said. What? That's what my mum calls it. I stroked the dry skin of his knuckles with one finger. When the skin on your hands gets all dry, rusty northern hands. Aled smiled. I think I need to buy some gloves. I'd wear them all the time. Like radio in university. Radio never takes their gloves off. No one knows why. Yeah. He took his hand back and wrapped his arms around his knees. Sometimes I think I am radio. That's all.